What if I told you that aging is not just about time, but about how well your body handles stress, repair, and recovery? Today, most people think getting older is something that simply happens, but cultures around the world have long used certain plants to support energy, resilience, and long-term vitality. These were not miracle cures. They were steady tools believed to help the body manage stress, support cellular protection, and stay balanced over time. Modern research now suggests some of these overlooked plants may support healthy aging, circulation, recovery, and how the body responds to oxidative stress. In this video, you'll discover 7 rare plants, including one used in harsh mountain climates and another that may support energy and resilience in surprising ways. First, one is rhodiola root, the stress resilience plant. Rhodiola root, often called the golden root, has a long reputation as a plant that helps the body stay steady under pressure. It's known as an adaptogen, which simply means it may support how your body responds to stress, both physical and mental. For centuries, people living in some of the harshest climates on Earth turned to this root. In the cold regions of Siberia and across parts of Scandinavia, long winters and demanding conditions weren't optional, they were daily life. Rhodiola was traditionally used by hunters, laborers, and even soldiers to help maintain stamina, sharpen focus, and keep going when the body felt pushed to its limits. It wasn't seen as a boost for a moment. It was something that helped people endure. What's interesting is how modern research is starting to catch up with that traditional use. Studies suggest rhodiola may support the body's stress response system, especially how we regulate cortisol, the hormone tied to stress. When cortisol stays elevated for too long, it can wear down energy, affect sleep, and speed up the kind of internal strain we associate with aging. Rhodiola may help bring that response back into balance. There's also growing interest in how it may support mitochondrial function. Mitochondria are often described as the energy centers inside your cells. When they're working well, you feel more stable, more energized, and better able to recover. When they're under strain, everything feels heavier. Research indicates rhodiola may help support these systems, which connects directly to how we experience long-term vitality. If we look a little closer at what's inside this root, you'll find compounds like rosavins and salidroside. These are natural plant chemicals that researchers believe play a role in how rhodiola interacts with stress pathways in the body. You don't need to memorize the names, but it helps to understand that this isn't random. There's a structure behind why this plant has been valued for so long. In terms of using it, one of the simplest and most common approaches today is a standardized extract. It's typically taken in small amounts, often earlier in the day. Because it can feel gently energizing, taking it too late might interfere with sleep for some people. As with anything new, it's smart to start low and pay attention to how your body responds. And if you're on medication or have specific health concerns, it's always a good idea to check in with your provider first. So why did something this useful fade into the background? Part of it comes down to visibility. Plants like ginseng and ashwagandha became more widely marketed and easier to recognize. Rhodiola, on the other hand, stayed more regional, more tied to specific climates and traditions. It didn't get the same spotlight, even though its role was just as meaningful. And maybe that's the pattern you'll start to notice as we go through these plants. The ones that quietly supported people for generations aren't always the ones that made it into modern headlines. Think of rhodiola like a shock absorber for your body. It doesn't remove the road you're on. The stress, the demands, the challenges, those are still there. But it helps smooth the ride, so the impact doesn't wear you down as quickly. Second is Gotu kola, the longevity leaf. Gotu kola, often called the longevity leaf, is a small, unassuming plant that has quietly held a powerful reputation for supporting both the mind and the body. It doesn't look like much at first glance. Just soft green leaves, low to the ground. But for generations, it's been associated with clarity, resilience, and long life. In traditional Ayurvedic practices, Gotu kola was used as a daily tonic for mental sharpness and steady energy. In parts of Asia, there's even a story about a man who lived well over 100 years, and people believed his regular use of this plant played a role. In traditional Chinese systems, it was often linked with longevity and used to support calm focus and overall vitality. It wasn't treated as a quick fix. It was something people returned to day after day as part of a long-term rhythm. Now, when we bring that into a modern lens, things start to connect in an interesting way. Studies suggest gotu kola may support circulation, especially in smaller blood vessels. That matters more than most people realize. Good circulation helps deliver nutrients where they're needed and supports how the body maintains healthy tissue over time. Research also indicates it may support collagen production, which plays a key role in skin structure, elasticity, and repair. So when people talk about aging, especially visible aging, they often focus on the surface. But what's happening underneath, things like circulation and collagen, shapes what we see on the outside. Gotu kola seems to work more from that deeper level, supporting the systems that keep everything functioning smoothly. If we look at what gives this plant its potential, it contains natural compounds called triterpenoids. These compounds are believed to support skin structure and connective tissue. In simple terms, they may help the body maintain strength and flexibility in areas that tend to weaken over time. Again, not instantly and not dramatically overnight, but steadily. Using gotu kola is fairly simple. One of the most traditional methods is as a tea made from dried leaves. It has a mild, slightly earthy taste. Some people prefer it as an extract for convenience. Either way, consistency matters more than quantity. Because it's a potent plant, moderation is important. More isn't always better, and as always, if you're pregnant, nursing, or taking medications, it's wise to check with your provider before adding it in. So why did a plant with such a long history slip out of the spotlight? Part of the reason is surprisingly simple. It never got branded. It didn't become the next trendy superfood or get packaged into flashy marketing campaigns. While other greens like kale and spinach took center stage, gotu kola stayed in the background, mostly known within traditional systems and smaller communities. But that doesn't take away from its value. In fact, it often means the opposite. Because plants like this weren't designed to impress. They were designed to support. Think of gotu kola as something working beneath the surface. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention. But over time, it helps build strength where it matters most. It works quietly, like roots strengthening the soil beneath the surface. Third is Schisandra berry. The 5-flavor protector, Schisandra berry is often called the 5-flavor fruit, and that name alone tells you something unusual is going on. It carries sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent notes all at once. In traditional thinking, the balance of flavors reflects something deeper, a plant that doesn't just target one system, but may support multiple areas of the body at the same time. For centuries, this berry has been used in traditional Chinese practices as a tonic for vitality and endurance. Travelers, workers, and herbalists valued it for its ability to help sustain energy and maintain resilience during long periods of effort. It was also traditionally used for skin health, not from a surface-level approach, but by supporting the body internally. The idea was simple. When the inside is balanced, the outside reflects it. Now, when we look at what modern research is uncovering, we start to see how those traditional uses might connect. Studies suggest Schisandra contains compounds called lignans, which may support liver function. The liver plays a central role in how the body processes and clears out unwanted substances. When it's working efficiently, it supports overall balance, including energy levels and skin clarity. Research also indicates these lignans may have antioxidant properties. That matters because oxidative stress is one of the key factors linked to how the body ages over time. It's the wear and tear that builds up at a cellular level. By supporting the body's ability to handle that stress, Schisandra may play a role in protecting long-term function. If we break it down in simple terms, this berry doesn't push the body in one direction. It helps it stay centered. That's a different approach compared to many modern solutions that focus on one outcome at a time. Inside Schisandra, those lignans, along with other natural compounds, are believed to help stabilize how the body responds to internal and external stresses. You don't need to think of it as something dramatic. It's more like a steadying force, helping systems communicate and function more smoothly together. When it comes to using Schisandra, the most common forms are dried berries or extracts. The dried berries can be steeped into a tea, though the taste can be intense and unfamiliar at first. That strong flavor is often a sign of its concentration. Extracts offer a more convenient option for those who don't enjoy the taste. Either way, it's typically used in small, consistent amounts rather than large doses. Because it's potent, it's worth paying attention to how your body responds. And if you're pregnant, nursing, or taking medications, it's always a smart move to check in with your provider before adding something new. So why hasn't Schisandra become a household name? A big part of it comes down to that same 5-flavor identity. It's not an easy sell. Most people are used to simple tastes, sweet, or maybe slightly bitter. Schisandra challenges that. It doesn't fit neatly into what people expect, and because of that, it never gained the same mainstream traction as more familiar ingredients. But sometimes, what makes something less popular is exactly what makes it valuable. Because instead of being simplified or reshaped to fit trends, it stayed true to what it is. Complex, balanced, and quietly effective. Think of Schisandra like a shield with many layers. It doesn't just guard one area. It surrounds, supports, and protects from multiple angles, working quietly from all sides. Fourth is He Shao Wu. The traditional rejuvenation root, He Shao Wu, often called the restoration root, has long been associated with vitality, strength, and the idea of aging with resilience. In traditional herbal systems, it wasn't just seen as a plant for appearance, but as something that may support deeper reserves in the body, including energy, recovery, and long-term balance. There's an old story often told about this root. It speaks of a man who was weak and aging quickly, who later regained strength, darkened hair, and renewed energy after regularly using He Shao Wu. Whether the story is literal or symbolic, it reflects how strongly this plant became linked with longevity and restoration in traditional Chinese practices. It was often used over long periods, not for quick results, but as part of a steady routine to support the body as it aged. Now, when we look at this through a modern lens, some of those traditional beliefs start to align with emerging research. Studies suggest He Shao Wu contains antioxidant compounds that may help the body manage oxidative stress. As we've talked about earlier, oxidative stress is one of the key factors that influences how the body ages at a cellular level. When that stress builds up, it can affect everything from energy to skin to overall function. There's also early research exploring how this root may support certain cellular markers related to aging and repair. While this area is still being studied, it points towards something important. This plant may not work on the surface. It may work deeper, supporting how the body maintains itself over time. If we break it down simply, He Shao Wu is often valued for how it may help the body preserve what it already has. Instead of forcing change, it supports retention, stability, and gradual renewal. Inside the root, there are natural compounds like stilbenes and phospholipids. These compounds are believed to play a role in antioxidant activity and cellular support. You don't need to focus on the names, but it helps to understand that there's a structure behind its traditional use. It's not just folklore. There are mechanisms being explored that may explain why it earned its reputation. Now, one of the most important things to understand about He Shao Wu is preparation. Traditionally, this root is not used raw. It goes through a specific processing method, often involving cooking with black beans, which changes its properties and makes it safer for regular use. Using it in its properly prepared form is key. This is not a plant where shortcuts work well. Today, it's commonly found as a processed extract or in prepared herbal formulas. If someone chooses to explore it, it's important to look for properly sourced and prepared versions. And as always, if you're taking medications or have existing health concerns, it's wise to check in with your provider before adding it. So why did something with such a strong traditional reputation fade from wider use? Part of the reason comes down to inconsistency. As herbal practices spread outside their original context, preparation methods weren't always followed correctly. That led to confusion and concern around its use. Without clear standardization, many people simply moved on to easier, more familiar options. And in a world that often looks for fast results, a plant that works slowly and requires proper preparation doesn't always fit the pace people expect. But that doesn't mean it lost its value. In many ways, it just means it requires a different kind of mindset: patience, consistency, respect for how it's meant to be used. Think of He Shall Wu like a slow-burning fire. It's not a quick spark or a sudden flame. It builds gradually, steady and deep, creating warmth that lasts over time. Before we move on, take a quiet second and think about what we've covered so far. Not just the plants themselves, but the pattern behind them. The idea that real, lasting support doesn't come from something loud or instant. It comes from small, steady inputs that help your body stay balanced over time. If this way of looking at health makes sense to you, if you appreciate content that blends traditional wisdom with what research is starting to uncover, go ahead and like this video. It helps more people find information that's calm, practical, and grounded. And if you want more of this kind of approach, where we focus on self-reliance, natural support, and understanding how things actually work, consider subscribing. There's a lot more to explore, and we're just getting into some of the most interesting ones next. Fifth one is sea buckthorn. The skin and cell support berry, sea buckthorn, sometimes called the holy fruit of the Himalayas, is a bright orange berry that stands out immediately. Its color alone hints at its richness. This is a plant known for being packed with nutrients that may support both skin health and the deeper systems tied to cellular repair. For generations, people in Central Asia and parts of Eastern Europe relied on sea buckthorn as a source of strength and recovery. It was traditionally used by communities living in rugged environments, where the body needed consistent support to handle cold, wind, and physical strain. In some regions, even ancient warriors were said to value it for maintaining endurance and helping the body recover after long journeys or demanding conditions. What makes this berry especially interesting today is how its traditional use lines up with modern research. Studies suggest sea buckthorn is rich in antioxidants, which may help the body handle oxidative stress, one of the key drivers behind how we experience aging over time. It's also one of the few plant sources that naturally contains a range of omega fatty acids, including omega-7, which has been linked to skin hydration and elasticity. When your skin maintains its ability to stay hydrated and flexible, it tends to reflect that outwardly. But again, this isn't just about appearance. These same properties connect to how the body supports cell membranes and tissue repair internally. Research indicates that the nutrients in sea buckthorn may play a role in maintaining that balance. If we look a little closer at what's inside this berry, you'll find compounds like carotenoids, vitamin C, vitamin E, and those unique fatty acids. In simple terms, these work together to support protection and nourishment at a cellular level. Instead of targeting one single pathway, it offers a combination of support that fits into the bigger picture of how the body maintains itself. Using sea buckthorn is fairly straightforward. One of the most common ways is through its oil, which can be taken in small amounts or used externally on the skin. It's also available as a juice though the taste is strong, tangy, and not something everyone enjoys right away. That intensity often reflects its concentration. As with anything potent, starting with small amounts and staying consistent tends to work best. And if you're pregnant, nursing, or taking medications, it's always a good idea to check with your provider before adding something new. So why hasn't sea buckthorn been more widely known? A big part of it comes down to geography. For a long time, it was mostly limited to specific regions where it naturally grows. It didn't spread globally in the same way as more common fruits or herbs. Without widespread cultivation or marketing, it simply stayed local, even though its value was well understood in those areas. Only recently has it started gaining more attention as people look beyond the usual options and begin rediscovering plants with deeper histories. And that's often how it goes. The plants that quietly supported people in demanding environments don't always become trends. They remain steady, reliable, and a little bit hidden until someone takes a closer look. Think of sea buckthorn like oil for a machine. It doesn't change the structure. It doesn't force anything unnatural. But it helps everything move more smoothly, reducing wear and keeping the system running the way it's meant to. Sixth is astragalus root, the immune longevity tonic. Astragalus root, often called the endurance root, has been valued for centuries as a steady supporter of long-term resilience. It's not the kind of plant people turn to for quick results. Instead, it's traditionally used to help the body stay strong over time, especially when it comes to maintaining balance in the immune system and overall vitality. In traditional Chinese practices, astragalus was often added to daily broths and tonics, not as a short-term remedy, but as a foundation. Families would use it regularly, especially during colder seasons or times of physical stress, to help the body stay prepared rather than reacting after the fact. It was associated with strength, endurance, and a kind of quiet protection that builds gradually. When we look at modern research, we begin to see why this root earned that reputation. Studies suggest astragalus may support immune signaling, which is how the body communicates internally to respond to stresses. A well-balanced immune response isn't about being overly active or underactive. It's about being steady and appropriate. That kind of balance plays a big role in how the body handles long-term wear and tear. There's also growing interest in how astragalus may support cellular protection. Research indicates it contains compounds that may help the body defend against oxidative stress, which, as we've talked about, is one of the key factors linked to aging at a deeper level. By supporting these internal systems, astragalus fits into that bigger picture of maintaining function over time. Inside the root, you'll find natural compounds like polysaccharides and saponins. In simple terms, these are believed to help regulate how the immune system responds and how cells protect themselves. You don't need to think of it as something dramatic. It's more about steady communication and support, helping the body do what it's already designed to do, just a little more efficiently. Using astragalus is simple, but it does require a bit of patience. One of the most traditional ways is to simmer the dried root slices in water or broth. This slow cooking process helps extract its properties gently. It's not something you rush. You let it steep, sometimes for hours, and then use that broth as part of your meals. It has a mild, slightly sweet taste that blends easily with other ingredients. You'll also find it in teas and extracts for convenience, but the principle stays the same. Small amounts, used consistently over time. And as always, if you're pregnant, nursing, or taking medications, it's a good idea to check with your provider before adding it into your routine. So why did astragalus fall out of the mainstream conversation? The answer is pretty simple. It doesn't fit into the fast-paced mindset most people have today. We're used to things that promise quick, noticeable changes. Astragalus doesn't work like that. It builds slowly. Its value shows up over time, not overnight. And because of that, it often gets overlooked in favor of more immediate options. But that slow approach is exactly where its strength lies. Because real resilience isn't built in a day. It's built through consistent support, repeated over weeks, months, and years. Think of astragalus like building a wall, brick by brick. Each small piece adds to the structure. You may not notice the change right away, but over time, you end up with something strong, stable, and able to stand against whatever comes its way. And the last is amaranth greens. The forgotten nutrient powerhouse, amaranth greens, sometimes called the everlasting greens, are one of those plants that don't demand attention, but quietly deliver deep nourishment. They're leafy, simple, and easy to overlook, yet they're packed with minerals and natural compounds that may support overall vitality in a steady, reliable way. Long before modern grocery stores and labeled superfoods, ancient civilizations relied on amaranth as both a grain and a green. In parts of Central and South America, it was considered a staple for strength and endurance. It showed up in daily meals, not as something special, but as something essential. People didn't separate it into categories like we do today. It was simply part of how they stayed nourished and capable. What's interesting is how that traditional use lines up with what we now understand about nutrition. Studies suggest amaranth greens contain a wide range of micronutrients, including iron, magnesium, calcium, and vitamins that support cellular function. It also contains antioxidants, which may help the body manage oxidative stress over time. These are the quiet factors that influence how well your body maintains energy, repair, and resilience as the years go on. Unlike some of the other plants we've talked about, amaranth doesn't work by targeting one specific system. It supports the foundation. When your body has access to the nutrients it needs, it tends to function more efficiently across the board. That includes energy production, muscle function, and even how well your body handles daily wear and tear. If we break it down simply, this plant is less about stimulation and more about nourishment. It gives the body raw materials to work with rather than pushing it in a certain direction. Inside these greens, you'll find compounds like polyphenols and essential minerals that contribute to overall cellular health. You don't need to track every detail, but it helps to understand that this is a nutrient-dense plant. It supports the systems that keep everything running behind the scenes. Using amaranth greens is one of the easiest out of everything we've covered. They can be cooked just like spinach or added to soups, stews, or simple sautéed dishes. The taste is mild, slightly earthy, and easy to work with. There's no complicated preparation, no special timing. It fits into your meals naturally, which makes consistency much easier. Because it's a food rather than a concentrated herb, it's generally gentle and well tolerated. Still, as with any dietary change, it's smart to introduce it gradually and see how your body responds, especially if you have specific sensitivities. So why did something this useful fall off the radar? In many ways, it was replaced by convenience and marketing. Greens like spinach and kale became widely promoted, easier to find, and more recognizable. Amaranth, despite its long history, didn't get the same attention. It stayed in the background, even though its nutritional value never changed. And that's often how it goes with foundational foods. They don't get headlines because they're not dramatic. They're steady, reliable, and quietly effective. But when you look at long-term vitality, those are exactly the qualities that matter most. Think of amaranth greens as a quiet staple, not something flashy or attention-grabbing, but something that supports everything else, like a foundation you don't notice, but can't live without. Aging well is not about finding one perfect plant. It is about consistent support through small, steady habits that help your body stay balanced, nourished, and resilient over time. These plants work best together as part of a bigger picture, not as a single solution. Instead of trying everything at once, choose what fits your lifestyle and stay consistent. If you found this helpful, like the video, subscribe for more grounded health content. and share it with someone looking for a simpler path to long-term vitality. I'll see you in the next one. Before you start adding any of these into your routine, it's worth keeping a few simple things in mind. All of the plants we talked about here have been traditionally used to support general wellness and long-term vitality. They come from systems that focus on balance, consistency, and supporting the body over time. But tradition doesn't mean the experience will be exactly the same for everyone. Your body is unique. What works well for one person may feel different for someone else. That's why it's important to pay attention, go slowly, and notice how your body responds rather than rushing into anything. It's also important to remember that some herbs can interact with medications or may not be suitable in certain situations. Others, like specific roots, require proper preparation to be used safely and effectively. So taking a little extra time to understand what you're using makes a big difference. If you're pregnant, nursing, or currently taking medications, it's a good idea to check with your healthcare provider before trying something new, just to be on the safe side. The goal here isn't to overcomplicate things. It's simply to approach these plants with awareness and respect. Use good judgment, stay informed, and choose what feels right for your situation.